Ready to go? All right, welcome everybody tonight to our April 5th Town Board Workshop. We have a pretty full boat with us tonight. We have our Town Board, Andrew Riggenbaum, Steve Moreau, Steve Bedetti, Sylvia Santiago. We also have a receiver of taxes with us tonight, Susan Scheibel, and our Town Clerk, Kelly Allegra. We also have our Highway Superintendent, Anthony Feo, in attendance, and Dave Zagon, our Town Attorney, and Jack Finnegan and Doreen Casey, our Controller and Deputy Controller, and our IT Specialist, Patrick Mangan, and I am George Myers. So, first on the agenda tonight is the public hearing we're going to have on Wednesday regarding the wastewater treatment plant, which is the sewer treatment plant. This is a rather large project that's been kicking around for many years. And we're kind of reaching a breaking point here. The can's been kicked down the road way too long. The plant itself is 45 years old. It's in desperate need of an upgrade and an expansion. So we're proposing that we do those things, and the bond will be about $50 million over 30 years. And the cost to the taxpayer will be anywhere from 150, and I just heard today it could go up to 180 or 190 in the very beginning. As time goes on, it'll go down lower than that. And in the beginning, it will be lower than that. I'm not too sure there's any other option. We have been under the gun from DEC, New York State DEC. They have threatened us with fines for years now. Could be up to $37,000 a day. And I just don't see any other way out of this. Obviously, when the sewer treatment plant goes, we have a major issue. I also have with us tonight from Chemical Pollution, John Agito, who's our sewer operator. Is Mike Weeks here? Mike Weeks, town engineer, is with us too. So that kind of is a little overview of what we're up against here. So if any of the board members have any questions that they want to ask, that's why I asked John Agito and Mike Weeks and Jack Finnegan and Doreen Casey to be here so they could answer any questions. I know we've talked about it a number of times, but they'll also be here with us on Wednesday when we'll actually have the public hearing. We have had probably about 7 or 8 emails come in regarding the public hearing on Wednesday, which I've answered and will be part of the record once we get to Wednesday. So that being said, is any of the board members have anything they want to add? Although Doreen Casey told me an interesting fact today. She said, and Doreen, if I'm off, stop me. The national average for paying for sewer debt is about $504 a year. We are about $150. Is that right, Doreen?
Well, actually, the national average for sewer collection and treatment, so that would be debt and O&M, is $504 a year. And right now, between O&M and debt, the town residents, a typical household only pays $169 a year, so well below the national average.
Okay. Probably the reason we stayed up below the national average because we probably should have done something many years ago. So I think we're at that point now. So if any of the board members have any questions that they haven't had answered already by John Agito or Mike Weeks or Jack Finnegan or Doreen, anybody have anything they want to ask them?
Mike, just the question, I'm sorry, the increase of the 3 MGD here, is that 50 million a ballpark? It could be more or it could be less? Or is that pretty accurate?
So we just really started preliminary design. So we do our best at the planning stage to estimate the project cost. We're looking at construction beginning still 3 years from now. So it's certainly difficult for us to predict the future in terms of, where the economy is going to be and what the construction industry is going to be like. But yeah, we try our best. I mean, it's hard for us to say what'll happen by the time we get done with construction, but
All right, thank you.
probably not a very good answer for you, but
It's hard to answer that question. I mean, it's
Yeah.
what ifs and we get going here, but
yeah, because we really, we're not deep into design. We're still in, we've planned out all the project components and we've got, estimates from a lot of the vendors on the equipment that will be proposed. But again, it's, there's a lot of detailed work still to be done. So it's tough to really sharpen the pencil too much on the estimate, but we do,
No,
we
I get
try
it.
to be
I'm just-
conservative.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if it's starting 3 years from now, that 50 could, I guess, potentially be 60, and I guess we have to think about that as well.
50.
this is 59 now, right?
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the total bond estimate is 59 point something.
Okay, so we'll talk about some real money, but when I first came back here in January of 2020, and it became clear to me in a few months that we really needed to kind of get going. I've been talking to the board about it many, many times about this, so it's not like they're hearing this for the first time tonight. All right, so let's see what we get from the public on Wednesday, and then we'll move on from there. The next item on tonight's agenda is we're going to have another public hearing on Wednesday regarding Community Development Block Grants, commonly known as CDBG. So we want to see what we would like to put in for and see what's available. So I talked to Mike Weeks a couple of times, and I think Mike has 2 or 3 projects that he thinks we may be able to kind of submit and see how we would make out. I think the best thing is to hear from the public on Wednesday, see what they have to say, and then the board will have to kind of make a decision as to in which direction we want to go. So I just alerting you that we're just having a public hearing, and from there, we'll have to decide where we're going. Just as a reminder, the comprehensive master plan, the chapter 3300 zoning, and the moratorium will all be on the agenda on Wednesday. And we'll be adopting the master plan with the motion in the chapter 300, and that will be the end of the moratorium. Been in place now for about 15 months. And I think it has enabled us to take a deep breath to see where we're at and where we're going. And as the board knows, we have permitted applicants to go before the planning board now at their own risk. And there has been some activity before the planning board. So we'll have to see how that goes, but that will be on the agenda on Wednesday too. We'll wrap that up. The next item on the agenda, I had spoken to our recreation director, Matt Veronese, a little while ago, and asked him to start looking at a dog park in the Windsor, which I've had a number of requests for in the last 14 or 15 months. And Matt had already done a lot of research on his own. So he submitted some proposals to me, which I forwarded to all the board members. And Matt, you want to just give a little overview of you're a whole lot more familiar with this than I am, but the things that you have found calling around?
Yeah, so it's something I've been looking really probably I'm almost at 15 years here, and I've always wanted to do it, and just never was something that the previous administration wanted to do. So I kind of put my research, just always kept it, but I never really kept looking into it. But so what I've seen is the ones that are most successful. You either hear really good stories about them or really bad stories. The ones that are really good and they work well and everybody seems to follow the rules are ones that are membership based. So people pay a small membership, it could be $45, $40, $45, $50 for the year. And if you want to have non-residents, you can, but you would, typically double that. So it could be $90 to $100. And they have to, in order to get a membership, they have to prove that the dog is vaccinated and licensed. And then they would be able to get the membership. Also, there's some kind of key fob system, either an electronic key fob or just a key in general that people, only members that have that can get in, where, you know, the ones that I've looked at that don't have that, you know, and they still have the membership but no key fob, people are always sneaking in, and they're the ones that tend to cause the trouble. The parks that don't have any membership whatsoever, you find a lot of problems with owners not letting their dogs go to the bathroom all over, not picking up after their dogs. Sometimes they bring aggressive dogs in, not vaccinated dogs, you know, so there's a lot more problems with those. I visited a couple the other day, and both were membership based. I talked to a few members, and they definitely, one lady had, you know, goes to a few different towns, and she said the same thing. She likes to go to the ones, and she doesn't mind paying. She's a non-resident of the one dog park I visited in Beekman, not Beacon, Beekman. And she, you know, she drives a couple towns over to go to that one because it is membership based, and she pays almost $100, and she'd rather do that than go to one that for free in her own town that's just not well organized and it's not well policed. I also visited Beacon, their membership base, and they have a key fob. They weren't open the day I went because they were open in April 1st, but it was really nice. They have like ramps for the dogs, little tunnels for the dogs to run through. There's always an area for 30-pound and under would be a part of the park, and then dogs over 30 pounds. That way you don't have, you know, bigger dogs, even just playing could get too rough with the smaller dogs and hurt them, even if it's just play. Also, there's always a 2-gate entry system. So the dog always comes from the car on a leash. They enter the first gate on a leash, and then they get taken off the leash. And then the gate to their prospective side, whether it's over 30 or under 30, they take the dog off the leash to go in the actual park. The reason there's 2 gates is, one, the dog going in can get taken off a leash, because if you bring a dog into a park on a leash, it shows the other dogs, you know, that they can get aggressive to that dog with a leash. And then the dogs coming that can't escape that are already in there. That's why you have a 2-gate system. And it works really well. And I saw, you know, both parks had that, and it definitely worked really well. So, but I could, you know, I visited a few of them. I've talked to a lot of different rec directors. So I would be happy to share any of that with you guys if you have any questions.
All right, tell us about your 2 proposals, the parks. Which ones?
All right. So originally I thought that Christie Babcock Memorial Park would be the best park, being, you know, it's kind of our main park, and we have a lot. And then I happened to be talking to Patrick. We were at watching the basketball games one day at the firehouse, and then you know, Patrick and I were talking about it, and then Steve Bedetti walked by, and they kind of had a point. Originally, we said, oh, maybe Plum Point, which would be a beautiful location for one. But unfortunately, there's no power there. There's no water there. So we couldn't have a key fob system. We couldn't have cameras, which are really important too for the park. And no water, which, you know, it's nice to have water for the dogs. And I'm not sure if it was Steve or Patrick that said, how about San Giacomo? And I went to look at it that day, and it was perfect because there's already a softball field that we don't use there. So there's a lot of existing fencing that we could save a lot of money using. So I met with the fence guy a couple days later, and it would be even almost double the size of what Christie Babcock would be where we were going to put it, using the existing fencing and just having to close it in and separating the 2 sides. I think it would be a beautiful area. Plus, there's cameras there already. There's power there already. There's water there already. And it's really an underutilized field right now. So that was, you know, I thought that was, you know, I'm not sure who said it, Patrick or Steve's idea first, but once I saw it, I definitely saw it. I think it would be a great idea.
Okay, Matt. All right, listen, so what I'm thinking for the town board members is that you've heard this little presentation by Matt. You have the paperwork that I have sent to you guys. And I think that, as everyone knows, I like to get moving here. I'd like to do this sooner than later. So maybe the board members can kind of take a look at this. And if you have any further questions from Matt, contact him. And then at some point during this month, if you could just let my office know by email where you stand on this, so we can get going. We have about $651,000 in the parkland funds, and I'm proposing that we use that for whatever expenses we have. And there are some expenses that I think Matt has outlined in here. Was it 20 some odd thousand for the Sanjay, Matt?
Yeah, I think it was 25,800, and that was you know, the majority of it. I think 18,000 is additional fencing to close in what we have there already. And then, you know, you'd get some garbage cans, some benches, things like that. So I think really for just under 26,000, we could have and that's a really nice big dog park. You know, which if you started from scratch, you know, the price would be probably more than that at Christie Babcock and a lot smaller, where we thought we could have it. So you could have a much bigger dog park and for less money if we did it at San Giacomo.
Okay, so I just wanted the board members to hear a little presentation. As I said, they have the documentation that you sent to me, I sent to them. So if they have any questions, they can reach out to you, and then after they're done getting their questions answered, if they just let me know where they stand on this, and then we'll see if we can get going.
Can I just ask a question, George?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible, Matt, to also get the stuff that you had submitted that was in writing? I didn't see anything with regards to a non-membership fee-based dog park. I know what you've talked about, but is it possible to do something that at least gives us a write-up of what the pros and cons are of some place that you visited that is not a membership based? I'd like to know, you know, what that option is, if possible.
Yeah, I know, like, a perfect example is the town of LaGrange had one, and it was a disaster. I guess they even closed it. Yeah, I'll get some more information from a couple of them for you guys. I know there's one at Thomas Ballpark that's not membership, and I think that, you know, it's pretty good. So I will get a couple different non-membership ones.
Yeah, just pros and cons. I'd
Sure.
like to know what I'm comparing.
Absolutely.
Matt, did you have anything on yearly insurance or no? Do you know?
No, I know that's one of the always the concerns with dog parks for municipalities is insurance. But I guess, you know, that would have to be David and Jack, you know, who deals with the insurance, if our normal insurance would cover that, or would it be additional? I don't have that information.
Yeah, Stephen, I have that flagged on my paperwork that I'm gonna check on that to see what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely an issue. But Matt, I think that any questions that you get from individual board members, if you share it with the other ones so they know
Okay.
what questions are being asked,
Absolutely.
and hopefully we can get going on this project if we're gonna go.
Sure,
Okay,
and I just want to add something. I'm sorry. Just on an insurance question, is there a difference to have, and maybe David, this is a question for you. Is there a difference in having a membership or non-membership? So if we have a fob, you know, are we liable for anything else because it's a membership versus just an open park and non? I'd be curious to that as well. Thank you.
I'll try to find out, Sylvia. I don't know the answer just yet.
yeah, that's a question for our insurance company, which like I say, I've had flagged that. Steve Moreau, you have anything now, or you want to wait till you dive into this a little more?
No, I like the idea. I think it's good. I guess everybody's questions revolve around liability. So if somebody gets hurt, how far and how much is the town liable? That would be my only question.
Okay, so yeah, that's something that definitely Matt and I have spoken about a couple of times. So yeah, that's a concern of mine too. But I think if other people are able to have dog parks, I think policing it is the answer to things. And I don't mean police, but I mean cameras and having some of our recreation staff go by, see what's going on. I think it's a matter of training people. And then with the cameras, if somebody is violating the rules twice or three times, then they won't be there anymore. It's pretty simple. But like I said, I think we need to get a little bit of handle on where we're going, and especially that liability issue, and then we'll get together again. Okay, the next item on the agenda is this Forge Hill water plant on Forge Hill Road. We have had a myriad of problems down there. We have had pumps breaking, valves breaking, and we're in the process of kind of getting things fixed and trying to figure out why they're breaking. It's not that old. And maybe John Gitto, can you just give a little overview as to what the issues we've had with these pumps and valves and that kind of business? Because it's starting to really get serious.
Sure. Well, I'll start with the well pumps. We had a failure of well pump number 1 several months back, and we had a contractor who was not a separate contractor who wasn't the one who installed the pump to pull the pump, give us an evaluation on what they felt was the cause of the failure, and give us some options on repair versus replace in kind, or go a different route. Based on their recommendations, we went with a different type of pump, a submersible pump and motor, where the pump and motor is all in one piece. It drops down into the well, just like a homeowner's well pump would. That pump has been installed, and right now we're looking at 2 or 3 different options on the electrical connections, because it's a different pump. It doesn't exactly, plug in the way the original pump did. So we're looking at a couple different options to try and make the best recommendation of which way we should make those electrical connections. That's probably going to happen in the next several weeks, and we should have that well pump back in service. That's the smaller of the 3 production wells. That will deliver probably somewhere between 900 and 1,000 gallons per minute. The second well pump is production well number 2. We have had some issues with that well pump as well, primarily with it's reduced. It's delivering less than what its original rated capacity was. Originally, the well pump was rated for about 1,680 gallons per minute, roughly. We've had production numbers that more closely resemble 1,100 or 1,200 gallons per minute. We do have some start and stop issues with the well pump, where a slight water hammer is created. That did some damage to some piping at the well house, which we have since repaired. And right now we're in the process, Mike and myself and another contractor, with installing some vibration and pressure analyzers, so we can make some programming and changes to the well pump controls to try and iron out some of the start-stop issues. Production well number 3 has been really our go-to well, but that well pump is actually derated a little bit because of the reduced plant capacity as a result of the GAC facility. Right now, the plant is limited to produce a little less than 2.2 million gallons per day, and that is a function of what the overall capacity of the granular activated carbon system can treat. So that's where we are with the production wells. Anybody have any questions about that before I go into the plant? Okay.
Sorry,
So-
George, it's Matt. Do you need me to stay anymore or no?
Oh, you're good, man. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Hey, Matt, I had to listen to the whole dog park thing. You don't want my dog and pony now?
Yeah, sorry, John. I got to go deal with the baths for the kids.
All right, man. Go ahead.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care, Matt.
Bye.
All right, John, you're gonna move on to the plant?
Okay, so at the plant, recently we've had some issues with distribution pumps and motors. Now, the distribution pumps are the pumps that, once all the water goes through the entire treatment process, the well pumps pump into the plant, it goes through the entire treatment process. The finished water, the treated water, has to get pumped from the Butterhill plant, which is essentially at about the lowest elevation in town, up to our storage tank at the Riley Road filter plant. And that 2 million gallon storage tank is what the distribution pumps are looking at, and they come on and off to satisfy that tank and meet the needs in the town. So they're very high pressure pumps. The pumps have to pump against about 150 to 160 pounds of pressure. And they're big motors. There's 4 300 horsepower motors, and 4 large pumps that are providing that water delivery. We had one pump that failed back in the fall, and we pulled that pump apart, and we were very concerned because there was a excessive amount of wear inside the pump for the amount of hours that were on the pump. And the type of failure concerned us. The pump was out of warranty, so we didn't really have any avenue to go back to the manufacturer. But in dealing with the pump rep, he suggested that the pump be sent out to one of the manufacturer's certified repair centers so that they can evaluate the pump and maybe give us some feedback as to what they seem to think the causes of that failure are. Shortly after that pump failure, one of the large motors on the distribution pump, not that same pump, but the pump next to it, had a bearing failure. So again, the same repair center, we pulled the pump and the motor and at the same time, and both of those items were shipped down to their repair center down in New Jersey. The pump manufacturer's rep has also been out at the site a couple of times. He took a look at the pump when it was at the repair shop and looked at the pump when it was at the plant. And in the course of the pump being at the repair shop, there's the impeller had to be replaced, which has a very, very long lead time, about 12 weeks. So in the process of waiting for that pump to be repaired, a second pump failed, which was not really a big surprise to anyone because in looking at the excessive wear of the first pump, all 4 pumps alternate equally, so they all have about the same amount of hours on each pump. So if one is wearing out prematurely, we can bet that the others are pretty much following suit. So that second pump failed. Again, the manufacturer was out there. He made some recommendations as to what some of the causes may be and what some of the corrective actions could be. And we put together a little summary of what those are. We're in the process right now of getting some quotes on different materials for the pump impellers, which should last significantly longer than the material of the impellers that are there now. And we're also getting some pricing on some variable speed drives, which will control the motors and allow the motors to run at a slower speed to closely match the lower capacity of the plant. One of the things that's felt that could be a contributing factor to this premature failure is, believe it or not, the fact that the plant now is producing less water. These pumps, which are very large, are pumping less water. And in doing that, they're not at their optimum point on their operating curve. It's kind of like trying to get a race car to go drive around the streets of Manhattan. So that's where we are right now. We're getting pricing on new stainless steel impellers, and 2 variable speed drives for the pumps, for the motors, and maybe what might end up happening is these 2 pumps that are already at the shop, when they get rebuilt, we may look to remove the other 2 pumps and replace and rebuild those pumps with new stainless steel impellers and bearings.
Hey, John, thanks. I just wanted the board to hear that the things that I'm dealing with every day, and you can draw your own conclusions. Why is this place breaking down after a short period of time? Really haven't come up with any concrete answers, but we are dealing with this on a daily basis, and sometimes the next day's news gets worse than the news the day before. Also, John, you sent me a email today about the the aqueduct and the turbidity levels. You want to just touch on that a little bit, and then I'll make a statement.
Sure. So a couple weeks back, 3-4 weeks ago, a lot of the as a result of a lot of the snow melt up in the Catskills, the snowpack, some rain events that we had, in addition to a very large rainstorm, if everybody recalls, on Christmas Day, those events created a lot of turbidity, high turbidity in the Ashokan Reservoir. As a result, the DEP had been blending water from the Ashokan Reservoir, which feeds the Catskill Aqueduct, with water from the Delaware Aqueduct. There's an interconnection up in Gardner, which is just upstream from our Riley Road plant, which allows the DEP to mix the 2 waters. So when the Catskill Aqueduct from the Ashokan is very turbid, they can add cleaner water from the Delaware Aqueduct. They had been doing that for the last few weeks. About a week and a half ago, they tried to make some additional adjustments to that, caused some upset in the plant. We did get some high turbidity spikes, and had some difficulty managing those. We were able to use our interconnects to kind of put a lower, so that the Riley Road plant could produce a little bit less water. That puts less of a strain on the plant. The concern of mine is that in a year and a half, the Delaware Aqueduct is going to be offline. And if we have similar events, turbidity events on the Catskill Aqueduct while the Delaware Aqueduct is shut down for the final connections of the bypass tunnel, not only would the town of New Windsor have a tough time meeting its water demand, but that's going to be a period where the town of New Windsor is going to be looked upon to contribute to the town of Newburgh and supply water to the town of Newburgh of upwards of 1 million gallons per day, because the town of Newburgh relies on the Delaware Aqueduct in addition to their Chadwick Lake plant. So those are some concerns of mine with the condition of the Catskill. And we're in a situation now where, as I mentioned earlier, because of the GAC facility being smaller in rated capacity than the rest of the Butterhill plant, we are limited to only about 2.2 million gallons per day of production at the Butterhill plant. So without the Riley Road plant and without our Catskill Aqueduct, just the Butterhill plant alone right now cannot meet the town's overall needs.
So Joe, turbidity level, what is the optimal one coming into the plant? 3?
Well, normally our turbidity is less than 2.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, with the initial blending, the DEP was able to get it down to about a 3 or a 4, which was okay for us. When the turbidity gets up to close to between 15 and 20, the Riley Road plant has a very, very difficult time in being able to treat those high levels. The plant is called a direct filtration plant, so there's no intermediate step between the chemical process and the filtering. So the higher the concentration of turbidity, just picture that as, turbidity is dirt. So the more dirt that's in the water, the harder the plant has to work to filter that out. The quicker the filters plug up and have to get backwashed, and that cycle starts to reduce the overall ability for the plant to meet its overall demands.
Well, right now we have those interconnects open, right? The town of Newburgh on Lake Street and Executive Drive? Yes?
Well,
No?
the turbidity since last week is little by little started to creep down. Right now it's about a 5.5.
Okay.
So we're able to increase our flows at the Riley Road plant. So our rates are up a little bit now at the Riley Road plant. So we've since the beginning of last week, where we had all of our interconnections open, towards the end of the week, now the City of Newburgh interconnection is off. The Union Avenue interconnection is off. The only thing we have open right now is Express Drive. And we're going to evaluate all our tanks tomorrow, and we're anticipating shutting that off tomorrow. And then we'll be back to Riley Road and Butterhill and Kroll.
Okay, so I
I
think one of the
I
things
didn't forget Kroll, Steve.
I was gonna say, no bad news about Kroll? What up?
No, Kroll's running.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things that we're concerned about is when we have to supply water to the town of Newburgh in 2022. The way things are now, it probably is impossible. So Dave Zagon and I have been speaking to Martin Brand, who's the Deputy Commissioner of DEC, about the issue that we need that GAC system enlarged at Butterhill. And we've also been in contact with New York City DEP. So we are alerting people to a problem that we foresee coming up. So we're going to stay on top of it, but just so you know that this is an ongoing battle every single day with this water, getting water to our customers and figuring out where we're getting it from. So with the pumps breaking down and the turbidity getting in and the runoff, it's just really, John and his guys have struggled all the time. So the reason I just wanted John to give a little overview so you all understand exactly what's been going on. Mike Weeks, you have anything you want to add to that?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I think, John did a very good job of explaining all the challenges. Certainly just to add at the plant, where the plant was designed for over 6 million gallons a day, and we've been operating it at a maximum of 2 million gallons a day. So, there's a multitude of operational issues associated with that when you're scaling something back like that. So the pumps, I think, are that's the symptom of the pumps are the symptom of that. So.
All right, well, listen, we'll stay on top of it, but I'm really concerned about down in Newburgh next year. I just can foresee this thing coming, a train coming down the tracks, and we're standing in front of the train. All right, that was just kind of like catch the board up on all the things that we've been doing with the water. The next item on the agenda is the Clarkview sewer main replacement. Mike Weeks, you want to speak to that a little bit? How long this has been going on?
Sure. So this is a clean water WIA grant project. The town has had a few different illicit discharges from the sewer main, subject of violations from DEC. And this is the sewer main that runs from from Route 207 across, kind of parallels Clarkfield Road. It runs through backyards basically and runs over to Union Avenue. So we had applied back, I think in like 2017 or 2018, we applied for this WIA grant. It's about $1.5 million project, and we were successful in receiving grant funds for it. So we have just kind of wrapped up the final design. We've received a number of approvals from regulatory agencies. And what's on your agenda for Wednesday night is the approval of the ad for bids. So this project will be available for bid. I forget the exact date, probably next week. Bids are due in May 20th, I believe. So we'll be opening bids May 20th, hoping to be able to award the project at your June town board meeting. And get started in construction. This is probably like a 90-day construction project. So,
Okay, this is another project that's long overdue, and we've been pushing along since we got here. I think Dave Zagon, there was 2 or 3 or 4 easements that we needed to get. I think I remember we got 2 and 2 still kicking around. You know where we are now?
There were 3. One, I believe, was taken down. We got to check on the 2 others with code enforcement.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's,
we have easements through all those properties. There were 3 property owners that had encroachments into the easement that the building department was working on.
yeah, they had sheds and things like that on them. So that's, we've been in contact with them now for a couple of 3 months. So we're getting to where if they don't do it, then we'll have to take some action. All right, the next item on the agenda is the solicitor's permit from Nick's Enterprise, which is Nick's Hot Dogs over there on 207. I don't think we have much leeway here. He's a veteran, and that's pretty much exempts him from things. The last item on the agenda tonight is the water replacement project. Now, this thing's also been going on for a while, and I think we are kind of getting close to where we have to make a decision. I talked to the board about this last time, and Dave Zagon sent us a memo, and we're now at the point, what do we do with those people who refuse to do it? So the proposal has been that we double their bill. So there needs to be some board action before we do that. So I think I asked you last time to kind of consider how you want it to go, but I think we're at the point now where we have to make a decision. I think Dave's memo said that about 80% of these meters are done. And Cora Main was in my office last Thursday asking about where we are, and I said I was going to talk to the board tonight and asked him to call me tomorrow. So, Susan, you have anything you want to say about this? If they don't do it, business? She muted?
So you're muted. Got unmute.
Unmute, sir. No, not yet.
The
There you go.
There you go.
the majority of people, as you said, it's over 82% that have completed. They've complied. And I mean, I'm still telling people they're still calling because they complain that they have estimated bills, but it's mainly now because they haven't changed out. And they're ones that don't even have any type of remote at all that we're not getting readings for. So unless there's a consequence, they're not going to do it.
Okay, so that's a good word to use. Yeah, so there has to be a consequence. So let's say that double the bill is on the table. Anybody, any of the board members have any input? Yes, no, maybe?
George, I'd actually spoke to Sue about it, and I was wondering, I didn't know if she was able to do it, but like maybe a phasing type consequence, if you will, whether it be 1.5 or 25%, 50, 75, and then full. I just got a feeling the likelihood of somebody paying the smaller percentage and dismissing it is probably high. And then at the end of the day, when they hit the double, we've collected that money. Just a thought. I'm okay with going right to twice.
I think what we're trying to get them to do it, and I've spoken to Susan, and I do have the authority as the supervisor to maybe make a deal, but they got to get it done. I mean, we really need to get it done. And Dave, you have anything you want to add to this? Dave Zagon?
Nothing to add beyond what I put in the memo. I just need to know what the board wants to do with regard to the surcharge so that I can, at least the thought was that I was going to be sending out another letter, a final letter, hopefully, to those that have not completed or scheduled the replacement. And I would need to know whether or not it's going to be, double the estimated usage or something else so that I can put that in the letter and let those folks know once and for all what's going to happen should they not go ahead with the replacement.
I mean, you mentioned letters. We have sent Susan, what, 3 letters maybe?
3.
3 or 4, yeah.
Or I think there might be.
It
All
might
right,
be
so-
4 at this point.
Yeah, we're lettered out, I think. So let's do this. Andrew, any problem with doubling it? Muted?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, I said no, I have no problem with that.
All right, Steve Moreau?
I have no problem with it.
Stephen Bedetti already said no. Sylvia?
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do that letter, and listen, the calls will come to me anyway. So we have some people who were not sure why they're dragging their feet, and there are some people who, in their own minds, think they have a legitimate reason. But at some point in time, we really need to move forward. So Dave
George?
Zagan, I guess you can put that letter together?
Yep, I'll
And-
put the letter together, and just so everyone is aware, we'll also prepare a resolution to be passed at not this town board meeting, but the following town board meeting to actually put that into place so it can be, actually, it'll just probably be by motion, so that it can be added to the schedule of fees.
Okay, yeah, I just think we just want to get compliance and be done with this, because I personally think we need to really get after the large meter users too, and that's in my file to go
Yep.
to them, and there's some calibration issues that we need to address. So I think that, okay, so we're good on that. All right, at this point, we're gonna go to executive session, so I'll take everybody off but the board members. And thank you for helping us out tonight, everybody who did join in. So you can.
Get out of here.
Okay,
Do you see it?
thank you. Have a good night,
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Right there. Where the hell is